All right. Jose Ramirez just signing a new deal with the Cleveland Guardians. A lot of deferred money in that deal, but you worked in the question mark at the end. Does this make you concerned about Tarik Skubal? Does it make you worry about Tarik Skubal? We talked yesterday about how guarded sometimes the city of Detroit can be with their superstars. But where do you come in? What is your angle on what's going on over there?
Yeah, does this simply become, does Skubal not actually want to be in Detroit? Because if you look at it, Jose Ramirez, I personally think the Guardians, as of late, the last couple of years, I think the Tigers are a better franchise than the Guardians. You can argue division championships. You can argue that they split in the playoffs a couple of years ago. You can 100% argue that. That's not what I'm saying. But the way that the
Yeah.
Guardians operate, just not re-signing players. Who was the guy that's on the Josh Naylor, the guy who looks like Wario? Is that his name? The catcher, letting him walk.
Yes.
Letting there was another guy they let walk, the first baseman, I think. They let walk. I think Bo Naylor, maybe. I don't know if he's on the team,
Mm.
but letting some players, some key pieces walk, and then you have the whole betting thing with Emmanuel Clase. And I feel like the Guardians have operated in the ages of a minor league organization. Let's just be real. And Jose Ramirez, superstar. And just he's 33, he signed a 7-year contract, and we all know baseball contracts are for the here and now. You get burned later on in life, but that's how it goes. Shout out Bobby Bonilla again. But no, I'm looking at this, and Jose Ramirez deferred. So 10 or 7 years, 175, but every year it's 10 million is deferred to later on. And so he's making roughly 13, 14 million dollars a year, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm like, well, how is all this money being deferred for a superstar that wants to stay in Cleveland? Skubal, does he truly want to be here? That's the question that I'm seeing when I see this contract signed. Does Skubal actually want to be in Detroit? Because if Jose Ramirez is doing this for the Guardians, and it seems like it's night and day based on what the Tigers are trying to offer and what Skubal's trying to offer, do you think that Skubal just doesn't want to be here at this point? Because that's how I feel at this point. Because if Ramirez is deferring all this money to later on, but Skubal isn't budging on anything, it doesn't seem like Skubal is even giving an offer. It just seems like what Scott Boras wants to do. I don't necessarily think Skubal wants to be in Detroit anymore. That's what I think it boils down to, because because I feel like at some point we would have had a compromise if Skubal truly had his heart set in Detroit. And I know what you're going to say, Nate, and I agree with you. I think he does want to be on the West Coast. I think that's what it is. But I think that if there would have been some compromise by now.
I mean, I think that's part of it, right? I think he's from the West Coast. He's from that area. So I think a lot, his family, his friends, everybody that he's close to, that he grew up with, they're all over there. I mean, he played in Seattle in the playoffs. That's where he's from. He's from that area. So obviously it was an awesome opportunity for him, but I could see a situation where he wants to be back on the West Coast. The other thing is, though, is I think you're getting a look into the mind of one Scott Boras. And we've seen this with Scott Boras as it pertains to superstars before. He will not make an offer or try to come even close to closing on an offer before the player themselves has gone out and has tested the market and has seen what they can get from other clubs. So obviously those conversations are underway, and it's something that the camp for Tarik Skubal is, I'm sure, busy on finding the best deal for him. He's said multiple times before that he wants to stay in Detroit, that he wants to make a legacy in Detroit. Now, listen, I know words are just words, especially in sports now. I feel like sports fans were just so tarnished, and there's like this level of PTSD with athletes saying, hey, I'm never going to leave. I'm staying here. I'm this forever. And then they're gone the next day. We've seen it. We've seen that story time and time again. So words, again, are just that. They're just words. They're hollow. But I do genuinely think that there is interest in Tarik Skubal and sticking around in Detroit, in being in Detroit and building a legacy here. I don't think he's lying necessarily when it comes to that. But do I think the Tigers' priority right now is to re-sign Tarik Skubal, or pull out all the stops in order to re-sign Tarik Skubal? It's clear to me that they're not. That's not their intention, is to pull out all the stops. It's not their intention to spend $300-400 million to keep an aging starter around who is what 30 years old now. I think he's going to be 30. So that is we've seen it time and time again. And it's hard for Detroit fans to really grasp because what do you mean you don't want to resign the best pitcher in baseball? What do you mean that isn't your number one priority is to retain the guy who just won multiple Cy Young awards? That is one of the hardest thing to do in ever in baseball. I mean, that is a very exclusive group to win more than one Cy Young. What do you mean you aren't doing everything you can to keep this guy on your roster? Because he's as close to a guaranteed W as you get in Major League Baseball outside of Paul Skeens. I mean, it's 1A and it's 1B. It's the reason why I'm so excited to see them go to the World Baseball Classic, because with those two pitching, they might just tear through the competition with just those two. Why isn't that your priority? I don't know. I guess they think it's too risky of an investment. I think sometimes maybe they look at you're going to have him once only every 5 days. Also, what if we spend this amount of money and he goes out and he has a blowout? Now he's not playing for us. I mean, ask the Angels about what it's like to pay that many hundreds of millions of dollars for a player who, frankly, played 50 games in 3 years or whatever
Mike
it was.
Trout?
And Mike
Is that
Trout,
what you're referring to?
like this is yes, like the to sign a contract like this in a way you're it feels like you're signing your life away, and you're signing away any sort of level of security, especially when it comes to a position in sports that injuries are just commonplace with pitchers. They just happen and they'll just disappear for 2 months and then they'll be back and they'll be fine. And that is like, not everybody is Justin Verlander. Okay. Not everybody is able to pitch in this game until literally they're a dinosaur and then just go, okay, now I'm going to step away. Like there's a very small, and we've already seen an injury history from Tarik Skubal. It's not like he's been completely healthy his entire career. So that is all those things put together, I think, is the reason why the organization is not making him a priority. Now, for right or wrong, if you're a Detroit fan and if you're a purist, you don't want to see your superstar go anywhere else. I understand that, especially if he lands on the Dodgers. I think everybody just might sell their jerseys and hats and be like, I'm not going to cheer anymore. I'm not even going to watch the sport, which to that degree, I don't necessarily say you're wrong, but I don't think it's a priority for the Tigers, Ryan, unfortunately. I don't think anybody wants to hear that, but I don't think it's a priority for them right now.
No, I would agree with you. I think that the whole Scooble situation, I think there's a lot of little messiness around the, or behind the scenes rather, with Boris and Illich and all that fun stuff with Scott Harris. But I also think that if we look at the way that the Tigers organization is trying to operate, it's the same way as what the Red Wings are doing. It's wait for the kids, and I'm not saying that Briseño and Max Clark and Kevin McGonigal aren't going to be stars. That's not what I'm saying. I think a couple of those will definitely pan out to be some stars. But let's look. Spencer Torkelson's supposed to be our star. He's through the farm system. Riley Green, same way. I don't think we didn't draft Kerry Carpenter, did we? We didn't draft him, right? I think we signed him. But anyway, it's
yes. Yep.
But yes, it's wait for the kids. That's what we're waiting for. It's very Moneyball-esque, which again, I can't really argue it because it's like 100. They still have a payroll of 150 million ish, at least last year. But no, I just think that if we look at our highest earners on the team, it's Javi Baez, which is crazy to think still because he's still making $20 million a year from Al Avila. And then you look at Gleyber Torres, who's now, I think, around $25 million a year. But no, it's just that I don't think the Tigers organization wants to go out and spend hundreds of millions of dollars just on a pitcher that you see once every 5 days. I think that's ultimately what it boils down to. That's why I don't think we're ever going to see Reese Olson be given a massive contract because he's hurt all the damn time. No, I ultimately think you're right, Nate. I think it boils down to the fact that I don't think to us, to you and I, and to the fans, it 100% feels like it has to be a priority to re-sign Tarik Skubal. Obviously, you and I don't have any experience in the money or the money side, the dots, the I's, and everything.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's different conversations. But I think that both sides, I honestly just think that Skubal doesn't. I don't think his heart is fully in Detroit, and I just think that's making negotiations so much harder. And I just think that we're just It's not a matter of if he leaves, it's just a matter of when he leaves, and whether that's could be tomorrow for all I know. He could get traded. He could be at the deadline. Which again, if that's the worst thing. If you start with Skubal to start the year, you got to finish with him, unless the team is absolutely garbage. But if you trade him before the season.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's get to question of the day.